I wound up on the front page of the Washington Post. The online article that day, it was the most read article. It was about the food industry paying anti-diet influencers to recommend crappy food as a everything in moderation type of diet, which if you've ever been a binge eater, you would know that that's the worst advice you could give to somebody. But I took that advice and I ran with it because it was what I wanted to hear. And gained weight rapidly. And now, as you know, if you've been here, I'm trying to claw my way out of that mistake. Being on the Washington Post was already pretty cool, but then also being on NPR, very cool. And then having a friend message me on Instagram and say, "Hey, is this you? You were on Philip DeFranco." Really? Yeah, Philip DeFranco. I love that show. What really had me fangirling was seeing Sam at Every Size cover this story. I love her channel, her content, and it was really cool watching her defend my honor. Here I am with Sam's blessing to react to her video about the Washington Post article that I was in. I consider this my before photo. Let's just make it official. It's my before photo. I felt so confident that day, but I don't look very confident in the photo. What a cool experience though.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam.
Hi,
if
Sam.
you are a returning viewer, welcome back. I am so happy to have
Yes,
you all
I
here
am.
again with me this week, and I hope that you all are enjoying this lovely spring weather. I'm about to film this video and go outside because we have to take advantage of it while it's here. I'm hoping it's no longer fool spring, but we'll see. If you are new here and this is the first time you are seeing my face, welcome. I make weekly videos dissecting internet nonsense, so if you're into that type of thing or
Very
you like
well.
today's video, I hope that you'll consider
And you will see she dissects internet nonsense quite spectacularly.
liking and subscribing. It really helps out the channel and make sure that you never miss another upload from me. Once upon a time
Subscribe.
on this channel,
Of course, I'm going to link to her channel in the, well, I'm going to tag this channel and I'm also going to link to this video in the pinned comment. If you're here following me, you will like Sam for sure. All right, let's continue.
I came to the revelation that anti-diet culture is no different than diet culture.
Thank you.
Since that point in time, we've also discovered that dietitians are in fact being paid by big food companies to promote processed and ultra-processed foods to their audiences using their credentials. Well, Washington Post has done it again with an article titled, "As Obesity Rises, Big Food and Dietitians Push Anti-Diet Advice." The author builds out the article sharing the story of a woman who had struggled for years to lose weight when she stumbled across health at every size influencers on YouTube who urged her to stop dieting and start listening to her mental hunger. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? She, like many, let her guard down and began eating foods that were previously off limits to her when she was dieting. But when she gained 50 pounds in 2 months, she knew she needed a change. Using this framework and her story, Washington Post shares that the anti-diet influencers and channels that she stumbled across were likely being paid by big food to promote processed and ultra-processed foods. In this article, they pinpoint General Mills, noting that the cereal giant was paying dietitians to promote its cereals using anti-diet hashtags such as hashtag derail the shame, hashtag anti-diet, hashtag no bad foods, and hashtag find food freedom.
It's such bullshit. It's propaganda and it's brainwashing us. It's another type of brainwashing. It's like Instead of brainwashing us to lose tons of weight, now they're brainwashing us to eat shitty food and gain it all. It's so crazy. And by the way, can I have one of those slides into the cereal, big bowl of cereal, except make it Captain Crunch? Actually, you could do it with tricks, and it'd be like a McDonald's, you know, those ball pits that the kids play in with all the germs and stuff that we didn't care about when we were little. It's just like, yeah, woohoo, let's get inoculated. Yeah, you could do tricks with the McDonald's, with those balls, those colorful balls. I keep saying balls a lot. Balls. Okay, sorry, Sam. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, I'm really sorry.
Now, as you could probably imagine, our health at every size, anti-diet influencers, they did not like this article.
Oh, one thing I wanted to say, sorry, I got sidetracked by the goofy shit. Let's get on to something a little more serious. Serial to serious. I noticed in Sam's comment section, people were really like, what? She gained 50 pounds in 2 months? How's that even possible? That sounds like it's a lot. It was a lot, and I'll tell you why it was possible. And be careful out there. I was on a pretty strict diet. I was on keto, and then it's like, I'm not against keto. Whatever form or method of eating that works for you, do it, including intuitive eating, including all things in moderation. But it's not going to work for everybody. Keto diet worked for about 6 months, and then I plateaued, and it really kicked my past EDs right back into overdrive. I definitely had a restrictive ED when I was in high school. Welcome to being a Gen Xer. Growing up in the 80s, a lot of us, that happened. I recognized that I was starting to behave very similarly to when I was in high school, getting overly restrictive to the point where I was fasting a lot, but my mental health was not in a good place, and it really wasn't fasting in a healthy sense. There is a way to fast that is perfectly fine and healthy, and then there's a way to fast that is a full-on ED. I was doing the full-on ED version of it at that point, and then I started doing 100% carnivore diet because I fell into that rabbit hole and thought that maybe that would help me. And so what happened is I just got more and more and more and more restrictive to the point where I snapped, and then I went to the opposite side of that spectrum and just went all in like Stephanie Buttermore. But my genetics aren't superior like Stephanie Buttermore's, so I was destined to gain back 50 pounds rapidly. Now, I am sure a lot of that was water weight though, because when you go on a very low carb diet, and I was on strict keto, 20 grams or less, and by the time I got to carnivore, I was taking in 5 grams of carbs a day, if that. Sometimes like none, sometimes like 1 gram of carb from the cream in my coffee, and that is it. Maybe a little bit from some cheese here and there, but hardly anything. So I'm pretty sure that about had to have been 15 to 20 pounds of that had to have been the water weight, because you get very depleted in water when you are not really eating any carbs at all or very little carbs. So that's kind of more to that story of why so much came on so quickly. It was that all or nothing kind of mentality that was not good at all. And it was why the anti-diet culture, the anti-diet dietitians were so appealing to me, because I was so exhausted by being on diets all the time, especially super restrictive diets, which most of the ones I had been on were exactly that. All right, Sam, let's continue.
The first reaction that I saw was actually from Sammy over at Find Food Freedom. And while Sammy's been on the channel before, I will just take a second to remind you all that she is the health at every size thinfluencer who likes to tell us over and over and over again that she is a certified intuitive eating counselor, registered dietitian, and certified personal trainer. Oh, and don't forget, this is the most important part about Sammy. She has also used her very public platform to tell people to go ahead and get their trigger foods.
I want to know from you, what is one food that you forbid yourself to eat and that actually scares you to keep inside your house? I want to challenge you to go get that food this week.
That will never not blow my mind.
Same. It is mind-blowing. But yeah, I did that. I was encouraged to do that. I've never even heard of that. This was pre-TikTok when it happened to me. This was mostly YouTube and some Instagram, but mostly YouTube. And the thing is, that advice is good advice for somebody who's on the over-restriction, starvation style ED. Encouraging Eugenia Cooney to go out and get her fear foods would be a good thing. Encouraging Amberlynn Reed to even call anything a fear food, not the best advice anybody could ever give her. Telling us to get our fear foods, bring them into the house, is the worst advice. And it's honestly, it is spoken like somebody who's never been obese a day in her life. I want to know if that thinfluencer has ever lived in an obese or morbidly obese body. And then just tell me how responsible it is to tell everybody to go out and get their fear foods. Very irresponsible. If you haven't lived a day morbidly obese, I don't want you to tell me to be going and eating my fear foods. It's irresponsible and harmful. Harmful at worst, irresponsible at best.
Anyway, Sammy's response to this article is over 5 minutes long. So what I'm gonna do are focus on the parts that I think are the most relevant, but also I will go ahead and link the full video in case you want to watch it. I'll either do it in the description or in a pinned comment. Let's get started.
Post article that was clearly very against anti-diet dietitians. I spoke to the lead journalist on this article for over 45 minutes on the phone, and she did not use any of my quotes or anything we talked about.
Okay, I don't think you were speaking to the lead journalist on the article then, because the lead journalist on the article was Sasha Chavkin, and he is a he's not a she, but there were women on the team of journalists, so I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt that she was probably speaking to one of them.
All right, so she's telling us that she talked to the lead journalist on this article for 45 minutes, but they didn't use any of her quotes or her talking points. Seems frustrated, doesn't she? But then, a little while later, she says this.
No, I actually told the woman from the Post, I prefer you don't use me. I'm happy to be quoted. I'm happy to talk about this. But I prefer that you speak to people in this field that are so committed to this work and have the lived experience of being in marginalized bodies.
Girl, what? I can't be the only person who's genuinely confused by this. How can she be so frustrated when she's the one who opened the door to them not using her content? Outside of this, her reaction...
Also, I think what she's trying to say is, I've never been fat a day in my life, so I don't feel comfortable talking about this or being quoted by name in the Washington Post. Then why do you feel comfortable talking about it not in the Washington Post? Why do you feel like you are... an expert on this topic with obesity? Why do you feel like you're an expert on this with fat people? Why? That doesn't make any sense. And by the way, people who have been fat and are now thin or no longer suffering from binge eating disorder and they are in straight-sized bodies, they're few and far between. I don't see anybody out there who has once been obese, who is now an anti-diet dietitian. You know why? Because not being on a diet and counting calories or going into some sort of caloric deficit, if you don't do that, you're not going to lose weight. So they're not going to be out there telling you not to do that. It doesn't make sense to me. You know, just talk to the people who have had serious restrictive eating disorders. Don't try to tell me that I should be applying the same advice that you give to them. It's not right.
Is of interest to me because her main beef with the article is that anyone can go online and call themselves an anti-diet dietitian, even if they don't have credentials to do so. And she literally refers to them as Joe Schmoes.
Used myself as an example that a lot of dietitians come over to the anti-diet space not really knowing what HAES, intuitive eating, and weight inclusive care is. Anybody can call themselves an anti-diet dietitian. That's like anybody can call themselves a nutritionist, right? Anyone, any Joe Schmo can walk off the street, start an Instagram account and say, I'm a nutritionist. They have no credibility, they have no credentials, it means nothing. And the same thing happens within our field of dietetics. People start to wake up to diet culture and they're like, oh, I want to practice, in an anti-diet way, and start to say the things of talking about unconditional permission to eat whatever you want.
Whoa. Unconditional permission to eat. Unconditional permission to eat. Yeah, that's what they were encouraging me to do. And then people are like, wow, how did you gain 50 pounds in 2 months? That seems really extreme. Unconditional permission to eat with all of the ultra-processed food in an obesogenic society, that is very dangerous advice. And I feel like anybody who is a registered dietitian who's giving people unconditional permission to eat whatever they want should have their license taken away from them. Because even if you were a restrictive eater, you get introduced to ultra-processed foods, you're going to be in for a world of hurt when you're on the other side of that too. It's going to tip you into the opposite extreme, and that isn't good either. I just feel like we are not living in a world right now where unconditional permission to eat whatever you want is healthy for anybody. And do you think that I would be stupid enough to not research the credentials on the people that I was listening to? I did, and they're pretty high up there on the totem pole in your little... Probably you got quite a few of their books in your bookshelf in your office or whatever. You are probably quoting from their books. That is how high up and credentialed the people are or were or still are that I was listening to. So no, I wasn't listening to any Joe Schmo.
Yada, yada, yada. But don't have the credentials or the supervised practice or are really committed to the HAES and intuitive eating principles and weight inclusive care in general and the social justice aspect that comes along with it.
This jargon word salad that we just heard from Sammy is her essentially trying to say, I'm not like those other girls. I've done the work and I'm practiced enough to be in this space. And before we get too far, I will pause. I do this every time I talk about Sammy. I don't think everything Sammy does or says is bad. I like the fact that she focuses on habit change. I think that that's a real way that she's helping people, but that doesn't mean that Sammy's not just as problematic and irresponsible when it comes to her TikTok content. She will openly admit that she's never lived in a larger body. She's also historically admitted that she comes from restrictive behaviors in her background.
See, I'm telling you, the majority of them do. So when you don't come from a restrictive and you come from an overeating side of it, you can't listen to this advice that they're giving. But yet they think that taking their advice is going to somehow fix our metabolism and somehow our body is going to naturally heal. And then it's going to we're going to gain some weight for a little while and then we're going to just start dropping it off because we fixed our metabolisms by eating whatever we want and getting back to a state of non-restriction. It's garbagey, pseudoscience-y crap. It has not been proven. It's magical thinking. I just can't believe I fell for it. I get so... I'm not going to beat up on myself, but dang it. I guess when people are telling you everything you want to hear and you're just at the perfect moment of vulnerability, that's when they get ya. You know? My gosh.
And even though she's aware enough to admit those things, she will still go on her platform and give very broad advice meant for people with restrictive behaviors like she had. And she will offer that advice to an audience that she does not know. For all Sammy knows, the person in this article who found these anti-diet influencers could have found her content and could have acted upon it and could have had bad results. Despite her best efforts,
It wasn't her content, but it's content very, very similar. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if that Sammy person knew these people because they were pre-TikTok. So she may have been too young to be on TikTok or YouTube. I have no idea how old she is. She might have still been in school for this. While these other people, you know, these Joe Schmoes who are actually like the pioneers of the movement, that's who I was listening to. And yes, they're doctors and registered dietitians and all the credentials you could ever throw at something, but they're still giving terrible advice. Guess what? People who are doctors and properly accredited and have all kinds of titles and schooling still can give you the worst freaking advice. You still have to decide for yourself if what they're telling you is going to be right for you. And it's a trial and error process. But the whole anti-diet rhetoric of eating unconditionally whatever you want, that's just bad. There's no science to back that. You can go on PubMed and find there is no science to back that. Even the science, the studies that they did for healthy at every size and intuitive eating, those studies were very, very small. They were not randomized control trials. They were done on predominantly, I think it was all white women, morbidly obese women. I don't think there were any men in the trials, no people of color. Right now, it's really just a philosophy and a theory. It has not been proven yet completely because there's not enough empirical data or data, however you pronounce it, to back the claim. But they're running with it as if it's real and doing a lot of people a lot of damage in the process.
For here to deflect and separate herself from these people, the truth is she's doing the exact same thing. If she could just take a seat and listen to what people are saying, maybe she would hear that. Because for someone who's supposedly done the work and knows so much, it surprises me how little she tends to know or talk about behaviors that are not restrictive in nature. The other reaction that I saw and found noteworthy was from a dietitian named Taylor on TikTok, and she was feeling a little bit spicy.
And in the article, the woman who's talking about her experience with an intuitive eating or Hays registered dietitian, she mentions that she was eating cupcakes and Nutella and regained 50 pounds, leading her to 300 pounds, making her scared for her health. If this was the case for this individual, then unfortunately she went to a dietitian who was not actually educated in intuitive eating, Hays, or anti-diet.
Okay. Number one, I didn't go to any dietitian or register. I didn't go to anyone because at the time I did not have health care. So YouTube and free advice on YouTube was kind of what I had. And I was desperate to not binge anymore. And so I looked up like how to lose weight without binging, and it led me down the anti-diet rabbit hole. And they claimed that eating any foods you wanted and exposing yourself to your problem foods, your fear foods, it was almost like having a phobia, and exposing yourself to the source of your fear will eventually rid you of the phobia. I have yet to find a single time when inviting the chips into my house is a good idea. Like, it just isn't. I'm gonna reach for them. I'm gonna eat that food way before I'm gonna eat the vegetables in my fridge. That is how our brains are wired. I'm off on a tangent here. I forgot what I was gonna say. Okay, let's just keep going.
For the love of all things, just because we say that there are no morally good or bad food
why are we saying there's morals to food at all? There's just no such thing as that. And yeah, some food is bad. Some foods are developed in labs to override our hunger signals. To me, those foods are proceed with an abundance of caution. So to me, that is a bad food. Now, unfortunately, those are the tastiest foods as well. They're the most addictive. If you have an addictive bone in your body, those are bad foods for you. Am I assigning morality to that food? No, I'm assigning common freaking sense to that food. It makes sense for me not to welcome the chips into the house and not to have the Uber Eats app on my phone. Thank you very much. No, I don't have it on my phone. It's dangerous for me to do that. It is like having your drug dealer on speed dial. No. Does that mean I'm being moral about it? There's nothing moral about it. It's common sense and boundaries. It's simple boundaries. Some of us, when it comes to food, do not have boundaries. Here's another one too that's in a thin body. I doubt that she's ever been morbidly obese in her life. Don't talk to me about this. Don't talk to me about it if you don't know what it's like to struggle out of a 100-pound overweight body. Zip it. For the love of all, zip it. Simply Healthy RD.
Does not mean, once again, that we are telling you to eat Nutella and donuts for every single meal.
The issue for me here.
Do you think I'm that dumb that I would eat Nutella and donuts at every meal? Or cupcakes, whatever? No. No, but you know what? There are a lot of social media accounts out there that are like, just eat the donuts. Slay queen, go get the chips. Eat the carbs. It's all good. To a food addict, to somebody who really struggles with saying no and putting that food down after 1 or 2 servings, that is harmful content. That is encouraging us to harm ourselves. There's no other way of putting it than enabling us to harm ourselves. Sorry, not fucking sorry. I'm feeling a little spicy today too.
And I'm curious to know how many of you flagged it, is that Taylor goes out of her way to put the onus on the individual woman sharing her story, saying that she tried the anti-diet methods that she was seeing and she gained weight. Even Taylor's caption says she's doing intuitive.
Oh, let me see this. So intuitive eating is not eating donuts and Nutella for every meal and snack. Right, like I'm sitting there every meal and snack, piling Nutella on donuts and just eating that. No, I actually had a lot of healthy food too. I did. Fruits and vegetables, whole grains, because I didn't want to just suddenly be unhealthy. I just wanted to be able to allow myself to eat anything. But sadly, when somebody with my DNA, my genetics, my brain chemistry, my body brings something like Nutella into the house after severely restricting myself, my body is not going to take very well to that. So it doesn't take much to overeat. You can eat all healthy meals for the majority of your meals can be healthy during the day, and then all it really takes is one meal where you have a lot of ultra processed food in that meal and dessert, or 2 servings of dessert, and before you know it, you're like anywhere from 250 to 750 or 1,000 calories over that day. It's super easy to do with ultra processed food. And I don't know how a dietitian can know this and understand this. To me, it's common sense. It's not demonizing anything. So no, not every meal and snack. I'm not a dipshit. This article misrepresents what the anti-diet culture, haze, and intuitive eating movement are about. No, because the article wasn't. No, gentle nutrition, I hate that term. gentle nutrition is a key component of intuitive eating, and it's unfortunate the woman in the article did not receive high quality care. Yeah, it is unfortunate that I could not receive high quality care because I didn't have insurance at the time. But here's the thing, when I finally did have insurance, I did go see a registered, well, actually it was a therapist who also was a registered dietitian and nutritionist and specialized in eating disorders. And she gave me the same crap advice. The same. And she too was from a restrictive background, not an overfed background. So the majority of these influencers are indeed thin influencers, and they are giving bad advice to people who are struggling with putting on too much weight. It's like, no, I don't want to diet. I don't. But I also don't want to be packing on the pounds either. I want to be healthy. And I know that the weight I'm at right now, I don't care what the BMI says. I know that this is not my natural weight. I don't belong here. I'm not even supposed to be here today. In this, I'm sorry, that was a Clerks reference. A Dante reference from Clerks. It's just crap advice. It's just crap advice. And yeah, okay, sorry. No, I was not receiving high quality care, but then when I got high quality care, it was still the worst advice. And the article was more about you guys getting paid off by big food and big food hijacking your movement and taking advantage of you because ka-ching, ka-ching, I am the food industry's favorite client. Me. Of course, they're going to appeal to you, telling us not to diet. Of course, they're going to want to get in on that. And then they're going to try to sell us Ozempic. You know, they're in with the pharmaceutical industry or some shit because it just feels too like, it's so dystopian, really. Like, we're going to make the society that you're in obesogenic, but then we're going to prescribe really expensive, powerful medications to help you lose the weight. Like, we are in the bizarro world right now. And if you are obese, this is a real struggle. We're in a strange place right now where people don't want to admit the harm that's being done, the damage that's been done. They don't want to work to reverse it because it's not easy. Losing weight is not easy because our primordial brains don't want to lose it. We want to keep it on because we've never had a society that has such an abundance of food until just 100 years ago. Our brains weren't ready for this. This is not a war fought in our bodies. It's in our brains. And that's what the food industry is hijacking, is our brain chemistry with these ultra processed fucking foods that, I'm sorry, are bad. Doesn't mean I'll never eat them, but if I could keep my consumption of them down to about 10-15% of my diet, you know, a couple times a week, have something delicious and ultra processed and tasty, enjoy it, and be like, that's it for now. Now I'm going back to my healthy foods. My default setting should be the healthy food, not the ultra processed food. And that's really the long and short of it on that. So no, I did not eat the damn donuts and Nutella at every meal and snack. She doesn't get it. She doesn't get it because she's never been fat.
Eating wrong because it literally says intuitive eating is not eating donuts and Nutella for every meal and snack. Both Sammy and Taylor are so caught up on this article bashing their field of work that I don't think either of them are listening or recognizing the real issue here. The woman in the article who shared her story was basically their ideal client. Someone who struggled with body image, who struggled with weight loss for years, who finally saw a way to find an anti-diet way to live, and then she was taken advantage of.
Yes.
By their peers and by their colleagues who are being paid and accepting money from big food companies to promote processed and ultra-processed foods. And neither of them actually acknowledged that. One of which went straight at poking fun and blaming the individual for not knowing better.
Thank you.
And the other went ahead and said, well, yeah, of course she gained weight because she just followed any Joe Schmo without credentials. She should have known better. And I just have to interject to say that this is absolutely rich, coming from people who like to talk about the diet industry the way that they do. They tell people, well, you didn't fail the diet failed you. Clearly it wasn't clear enough. Or you followed someone who didn't have credentials and led you down a bad pathway. But in this circumstance, did anti-diet culture not fail this person? Why is this different? Why was she supposed to know better? Do you see now why I don't think anti-diet culture is better than diet culture? And on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and let Taylor tell us why she thinks the diet industry is so bad.
Oh, please.
At first, you have to reject the diet mentality and learn that dieting is not going to get you the long-term result that you are looking for. There's a reason that the diet industry is a $7 billion industry, because it sets you up to fail so that you keep coming back. That's how it keeps making money.
Okay, pause on that. I don't know about all of you, but this argument makes me absolutely bonkers. And today, I have time, so we're gonna get into it. First, I'm gonna go ahead and just do a little correction here. She said it's worth $7 billion. The diet industry is worth $72 billion. And just for funsies, I'm gonna go ahead and also give them the gym industry, which is worth $87 billion.
I love
so
going
together,
to the gym.
the diet and gym industries are worth $156 billion. And this argument
She is bringing the math. Or as the Brits say, she's bringing the maths.
that Taylor's using is one that we hear frequently because they love to tout that the diet industry is super predatory, and that's why it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, because they create programs that you're meant to fail so that you keep coming back and they keep making money, right? That's the...
See, I feel like they said that a lot, you know. Yeah, that's what they were saying when I discovered the anti-diet movement, and I was like, oh yeah, that's true. Oh, I'm never gonna diet again. I'm never gonna try to reduce my calories ever again. You know, they set me up to fail and to come back repeatedly. And it's like, now that I'm on the other side of it, I don't think it's that. Like, it almost feels like it's like a conspiracy theory in a way, because losing weight is hard. It just is. And you have to kind of experiment with different strategies before you arrive at a place where you're gonna lose weight and keep it off long term. So yeah, certain strategies aren't gonna work for you. Is that failing? No, you're experimenting. You're trying different methods to see what works. And you know, I went to Weight Watchers. I went to in-person meetings back in like the early 2000s. And then I did the online versions a couple of different times. And you cannot tell me that any of those coaches and those like the leaders of the meetings and the people that were there to help, that they were there with the goal, with the intention of making us come back and fail. Like, they wanted us to succeed. Weight Watchers even gives you a free lifetime membership once you make goal. And if you stay at your goal weight within a certain amount of pounds, I don't know if it's 5 or 10, but if you stay within your goal weight, you get a free lifetime membership. To me, that doesn't seem like they're intentionally trying to make you fail and come back so that you'll keep buying their program over and over again. I don't think that's true at all. I think that's a very cynical thing to say. Like, the people in the gyms, are they trying to make you like gain and then have to come back repeatedly? No. I feel like maybe diet culture itself might be a little bit of a, like, it's a little overblown, the concept of it, maybe. Now, the pharmaceutical industry, I think, is predatory as hell. And the food industry is predatory as hell, as we are learning more and more every day. But I don't know that the diet industry exists the way that they're painting it to exist. Well, with the exception of like supplements, like, you know, skinny teas and the Kim Kardashian crap, like the waist trainers and all the like really fad bullshit, that's diet culture to me. but like trying to develop a strategy that helps you eat well and move more and sleep better and have a good mental health routine in place, whether it's meditation or therapy or having to take a medication or all of those things, that's not diet culture to me. Diet culture to me is like skinny teas and seeing Kim Kardashian with a waist trainer on.
That's the whole point of this argument and bringing up this dollar figure. So 156 billion for the two of them. But now, since this article is talking specifically about big food, I'm going to go ahead and tell you how much big food is worth. And we're just going to look at the top 10 food companies. PepsiCo is worth $233 billion. Kraft Heinz is worth $45 billion. General Mills is worth $38 billion. Tyson is worth $20 billion. Nestle is worth $272 billion. Conagra is worth $13 billion. Mars, which is a candy company, is worth $47 billion. And Campbell is worth $12 billion.
And you know what's scary too? Procter and Gamble, the cigarette company, they have food companies that they own too. Some of these might actually be Procter and Gamble's subsidiaries. I'm not sure. I used to work in television and I worked in ad sales, so I had to run ads for a lot of these companies, and it was kind of fascinating to see who owned whom. So it's interesting too that there's like a cigarette company that actually markets food now. They do. So, wow. Yeah, Sam, you be bringing the numbers. That's way more than the predatory diet industry, right?
If you're not good at math, have no fear.
Thank
You're
you.
in good company.
I suck
But like
at
I
math.
said, I had time today.
Thank you.
And I figured out that all of these food companies totaled together are worth a whopping $683 billion.
Of course.
That is more than 4 times the amount that the diet and gym industries are worth. After all that, I'm curious to know what you think and which one seems more predatory. Because once you put all of the numbers in front of people and give them the whole contextual picture, it looks like one has deeper pockets with which they are able to influence consumer decisions, both by lobbying the government and by paying Joe Schmoes to influence their audiences to buy their products.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So now they have politicians, they have television advertisements, billboards, magazine ads, and now, yeah, it's like social media was the last frontier for them. And people they're more ad blind now to like banner ads and shit. We kind of ignore them. So let's pay Joe Schmo to promote my cereal and have a teeny tiny little thing on there that says ad or a little hashtag ad, where you like, if you are not really savvy about how social media works, you would think that a review of a product is organic and not user-generated content, which is basically the paid advertisement of social media. You would think that that's an authentic review, and it's not. And I feel like the FTC should outlaw user-generated content because I think it's the most insidious type of advertising. Yeah.
So which one is worse? You tell me.
Yeah.
And while we're at it, is this article actually wrong? Because essentially the argument that they're making here is big food is using dietitians to shift the blame for the obesity increases that we're seeing away from themselves, so away from big food, and towards the diet industry. Even though big food is worth 4 times more than the diet and gym industries. And I have to tell you guys, that is the first time I've ever pulled math like that, because again, it was just really grinding on me that this is their main argument, is that the diet industry is worth billions of dollars. So is the food company. And like,
Thank
you
you.
always know that that's part of the problem.
That's a really good point.
But I never went ahead and added it up. 4 times the diet industry is what the big food industry makes. So please, tell me which one's worse now that you've seen the whole picture. All right, let's wrap it up by looking at Taylor's final objection.
And as a dietitian with this argument, I also will never win, because if I post really nutrient-dense foods, I get told that I'm slipping back into orthorexia, and if I post less nutrient-dense, more ultra-processed foods in a beneficial way, then people say that I'm being paid by Big Pharma and the government, exactly like this article.
Now this just got right under my skin. The Washington Post found evidence that dietitians were being paid by big food companies because they have to put #ad in their advertisements per FTC guidelines. That's how Washington Post knows that these dietitians are being paid to do that, because there has to be a level of transparency now. For Taylor to basically equate the Washington Post article to her getting troll comments saying that she's being paid by big food is just off to me, because the two are not the same. A troll coming in and making an unsubstantiated claim is not the same as the Washington Post finding actual evidence of this happening, of dietitians being paid, because dietitians are being paid by big food. Again, I think the dietitians who are reacting to this article need to just take a chill pill, cool their jets, sit down for a second, and listen to what's actually being said to them. Because what's happening is they're being told over and over and over again that this happens to a lot of people. People who are actually sick of dieting or yo-yo dieting with fad diets, who are seeking out anti-diet content, being told they can and should eat whatever they want because eventually your body will regulate and eventually your body will crave whole foods or foods that are nutrient dense.
They literally make you think that you are repairing your metabolism by eating, what did that one influencer say? By eating unconditionally. Repairing your metabolism. Are you shitting me? They really say that that will happen. To fat people too, not just to people who are restrictive. I saw it from many different influencers, dietitians, like just about all of them. Actually, all of them.
Dense. And then when that doesn't happen for those people and they gain massive amounts of weight or they have a health problem, then they're just told they didn't do it correctly or they didn't have the right provider or whatever else excuse they have to blame the individual for the problem. If it's unacceptable to blame the individual for failing diet culture, then doesn't it make sense that it's also unacceptable to blame the individual for failing anti-diet culture? I will never for the life of me be able to wrap my head around the fact that these people think that they are part of the solution when they're actively part of the problem. And some of them are being paid to be part of the problem. All right, that is all I have for you all today on my end. And at this point, I am curious to know what you think. Did you see this article? Were you surprised to hear that dietitians were being paid by big food companies? I mean, just 6 months ago, we were talking about the aspartame issue with the American Beverage Association, and now here we are promoting General Mills. I need to know if anyone is surprised by this, because I feel like at this point, I am not. Were you surprised at all by the reactions of these online dietitians?
I'm not surprised because, it ruffled their feathers. They're worried that they're going to lose their fat clients, their fat, gullible clients. It's money for them too. They've made this into a living, and buy my course, buy my coaching plan, pay me to be your consultant and lead you even deeper down the wrong path. It's their livelihood too. So I'm not surprised that it really ruffled their feathers, and good, because they do need to give some thought to giving a one-size-fits-all, pun intended, blanket solution to people who are tired of dieting but still want to be healthy and, yes, still want to lose weight. There's a lot of us out there. We're not in fat acceptance anymore. We don't believe in health at every size anymore. No. But we still want to lose weight and do right for ourselves and reverse the damage that being obese has caused us. But there's nobody there for us. Nobody. Nobody who fucking understands it. Nobody. I see very few, I don't see anybody out there. There is a big space, big hole in care, healthcare, and dietitian, the kind of care that you receive to get out of an eating disorder mentality, but also to still do the right thing for yourself. It's really sadly lacking and leading a lot of people into a really bad place, really dark place. That's what I think. That's what I think, Sam.
Either claiming to be different than their peers or just straight up blaming the individual the same way that diet culture would. Please let me know what you think, because you all always come with such great opinions and feedback, and I am honestly looking forward to reading what you think, because this whole thing will never cease to blow my mind. And for all my introvert friends out there who may not feel comfortable leaving your opinion in an internet comment section, I see you, I feel you. Go ahead and leave me some sort of food emoji this week, because big food is gonna do what big food is gonna do.
Big food is gonna be foodin'. Yeah, everybody, go over to Sam at Every Size's comments and drop her an emoji or say hi. Tell her Jaye sent you. Go weigh in on her comments. Weigh in on mine too, though, please.
Plus, I love seeing your emojis just as much as I love reading those opinions, so please leave them for me down below. As always, thank you all so much for being here with me this week.
Thank you.
I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Yeah, so that was really neat to watch, and Sam, I appreciate you so much getting the word out there and just being a great channel to watch, and and for giving me your blessing to do this reaction. It's been a lot of fun. I always love your content, and yeah, I would love to know what you all think in my comments too, but also go visit Sam, go subscribe to her. She really covers a lot of fun stuff. I never know how to end these things, so I'm just gonna say,
last time, the rabbit was in Tricks Land, where zillions of other rabbits offered him sweet, fruity tricks.
Hannibal! At last, sweet, delicious tricks, the fruity part of my complete breakfast.